Sarah Larsen, and this is my year one. Boop.
This is your LA year one.
Oh yeah, let's try it again.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm Sarah Larsen, and this is my LA year one.
All right, so tell me about your first year in LA.
Oh man, okay. First year, it started out great, as many stories do. I moved in with an old friend of a friend who happened to need someone to move in with them in their apartment short term. So it was always like, that was the idea. I was kind of like filling in for a friend that was gonna move in like 3 months later. And it was all good. I wasn't entirely sure what I was gonna do at all. I knew I wanted to do.
What were you hoping to do?
I was open to doing creative things, like artistic capacity. I've been a painter and artist pretty much my whole life, so I knew that's the realm I wanted to focus on.
What kind of painting do you like to do?
A lot of different kinds. And it's changed over the years as well. Currently, right now, I love just doing bigger landscape pieces or like murals.
But what did you have in mind when you first moved out here?
I admit I didn't have a lot in mind.
I like it.
Pretty irresponsible of me, maybe, but I had been doing world traveling beforehand, where I wasn't even sure yet for most of my life if I wanted to focus on art, because I did a lot of like recreation in my background as well. So I was kind of torn, like, do I do that route or the art route? Do I want to keep art a hobby, or do I want to pursue it as a career? And I wasn't entirely sure. And I came here, honestly, like following intuition.
Really?
Yeah.
How did your tribe that you left feel about that?
So I had been traveling since, I think I moved here in 2017. And I had been traveling and living out of my backpack since 2013. And so like my tribe that I had been hanging out with back in my hometown had already been used to me traveling around. And I actually was lacking a tribe. Moving here was a big decision in realizing the importance of a tribe and having a home and a group of friends that's consistent and not just like, oh, I'm here for a few months and then I'm gone again. Yeah.
Right, because as we know, when people have that in the back of their head, or well, at least in my experience, that, hey, this person's only here temporarily, then they won't let them in as much as someone they know who's here for the long haul. Especially, that also translates to, from at least my experience, like those who are willing to help someone get to where they want to get to, because they tend rightfully so to focus on those who are, once again, they know who are there for the long haul.
Yeah, I picked up on that. Like, I love traveling, exploring. That's a huge part of who I am. Like, and my heart is an adventurer, right? And I was following that, and enjoying it along the way. But it's definitely something I picked up on. I'd make new friends and meet new people, and it was fantastic. But there was this lack of trust, because like it takes time to, really let people in. Yeah. And in a general scope, like being a transient, living out of your backpack for years, I realized like, oh, people had a hard time trusting me, because they're like, why is she like floating around? Like what is she doing?
Is there a key moment you can think of where it really just hit you like, oh, like I actually need to be a little bit more grounded for others to trust me? Was there like a moment you can reflect back on that was like that?
No one exact moment.
Okay.
It was kind of this slow build for me, but it probably happened in Australia. I lived in Australia for like around 2 years.
What part of Australia?
I popped into Perth first, which I love Perth. It has kind of a bad rep for some reason. I loved it. I was in Fremantle. And then I moved to Melbourne briefly, like only about a half a year or so, and then went back to Perth.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you said that it kind of happened in Australia. So kind of like what was it? What was that turning point?
Just trying to find my people and a reliable group of friends to hang out with. And I did find my people. I've got good friends that I'm still in touch with that live there or who I'd met while living there. And I love them. But like there was a lot of times like of lonesomeness, you know?
Yeah.
And going out and meeting people and talking to them and them being like, what do you do? I'm like, I travel, you know? And yeah, it was bit by bit, I kind of picked up the importance of having a community.
Right. And then when you talked about, when you just mentioned, you know, being lonesome, right? You know, it's ingrained in us a bit that it's not okay to say that you're lonely. But the reality is, even people who have the best of friends who are in the best of relationships, they get lonely, right? And then what happens is, because we are so conditioned not to admit when we do get lonely, that we can easily fall victim to our own decisions that we eventually make to cope with the loneliness. Because oftentimes that a lot of people are familiar with is like consumerism. You know, you that feeling when you purchase something, it feels good, and then when you actually get it, you don't care. You know, but then there are that's lucky if it's the consumerism part, where it's actually most people experience it with they look to the left and the right or the right of them, they see somebody that's by them, they're like, why the fuck is this person next to me?
Yeah.
I'm in a bad situation.
Yeah.
And so I find it very beautiful anytime someone can mention like that they get lonely.
Yeah, I was definitely lonely. Despite even having friends, you know, and people around me. Again, like I was saying, that there's like it takes time to build certain kinds of friendships and a depth and really it's community. Like, because traveling friends that you meet, like I've got friends that are like my best friends, and there's this own capacity for that to be a depth that you can't necessarily reach with other friends, because you've experienced new things together, you know.
Right.
But then there's a difference between a community, you know, where you can, you know, help out your neighbor, or you've got like the people, you know, like in your little hood or whatever, that you can rely on. I don't know. It's just
but you're compartmentalizing your friends, as people should. Like we do it naturally, I think, but I think sometimes people feel we're so afraid of our friends feeling a type of way if we look at them and say, hey, those are my neighbors who are my friends. These are my neighbors these are my friends who are also my colleagues, right? And these are my friends I grew up with. There is a bit of difference, but it doesn't mean that you love one more than the other. But that's sometimes how people tend to take it.
Yeah, exactly. But what I also meant to talk about a minute ago is that the accessibility of that, right? So like these friends that I hold dear, I've met traveling, they move on as well. And so like they're not there when, you know, tomorrow. I can't just like call them up and be like, oh, hey, let's meet up because you're across the fucking ocean. Can I swear?
Of course you can swear on this. You can talk as freely as you want.
But at any rate, so I've gotten kind of wearied, I guess is the word, and lonesome, and more than anything, just realizing the importance of community. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to move somewhere. And for whatever reason, it wasn't just whatever reason. There's LA is known as an artistic, creative city where people can pursue their dreams, you know?
Right.
And I didn't know entirely what I wanted to do, but I knew that art was something I cared deeply about, and that brought me a lot of joy. And I was like, you know what? Here's a city with sunny weather, which I appreciate, that I could do this. And major bonus is that I did have a good friend here, one of my best friends, that was already stationed here. So that was an influential component for me choosing LA.
What did your friend do?
She's a dancer and a photographer.
Uh,
Yeah, choreographer, dancer, photographer.
which is pretty dope and such. How can I say? I've worked with many dancers before, photo shoots and video shoots and things of that sort, and there's a certain passion that dancers bring to the table that
Body movement.
right that that I find to be very beautiful, even when it's can be a little extreme. All right, so you come to LA, you're staying with your friend, and then you're figuring out which way you want to go with things.
What am I going to do?
Exactly. So then what happens?
So as I'm trying to figure that out, at the time I thought maybe I could get into animation, because I did classic drawing. I like backgrounds, so maybe background animation, and I had been putting feelers out in that capacity. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, you need to make money, right? So I had a car that I got, and I picked up doing Lyft and a little bit of Uber, and then I did promotional jobs and this is something I've kind of done off and on even when I was traveling, like did it in Australia, like the States, where a company will hire you to come in for a product or a service, and you promote it for a given amount of time, right? So it's segmental? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not
my
like
vocabulary's not large.
It's not a full-time job.
Right.
And that's something I really loved, especially as someone who's just creative and likes to move around. I like to change my situations. And so it's ever moving. But I also don't like sales, because ultimately, it's manipulation.
And you're selling yourself, because, it's the thing they always say. It's, you're not selling the product, you're selling yourself. And I did something actually kind of similar right before I went to college, which no one would peg me for, like doing something. But it's a whole nother long story. I'm gonna let you do your thing. Yeah. This is your LA year one, not mine.
Appreciate it, Skylar. So I was doing that, and it was always like, this is temporary, but it was my source of income. And in that, because it was contracted work where I'd get a gig, I would have to drive there, right? So I needed my car.
Right.
And I think I was only 3 months into living here. And my agreement with my friend who I'd moved in with was 3 months. And he had already promised the room to his friend like months ago. Like I was there temporarily, right? Like that was always agreed upon. And it was funny enough. It was actually like it's my birthday coming up, and on like the night before my birthday, it was like 11 something, right?
Yeah.
And I just dropped off a passenger for Lyft, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home, go to bed, wake up, it'll be my birthday. On my way home, someone rear-ended me, and they hit me so hard, like I had momentarily blacked out.
Oh shit.
And I had apparently like gone through a full intersection and hit a bus. And I like came to right before hitting the bus, but like I braked, but I still hit the bus.
Yeah.
It ended up totaling my car. And some glorious human, praise be to them, I don't know. They witnessed the whole thing, and they're like, this is not your fault, here's my information. They encouraged me to like take a picture of the person's car who had hit me.
Yeah.
Because it ended up being a hit and run.
Oh shit.
And they had once they'd kind of like came to, they took off. And I just like that moment. I remember the police all came, and I was standing on the sidewalk, talking to the officer, giving my statement, all of that, and it starts raining, which isn't like super common in LA.
Right, it's like a scene out of a movie.
Yeah. And we like go under like a little thing to hide from the rain, and she's asking the typical questions, and she's like, okay, what's your birthday? And I tell her, my birthday, February 7th. And she's like looking at the time, and she's like, oh, happy birthday. It like had clicked over to midnight.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Like, I'm sitting there like injured. My neck is in pain. My car's totaled. It's raining. And it's my birthday.
It's a hell of a way. It is February 7th too. I mean, I told you earlier. Why that's a special day for me, obviously, because it's like my mother. That's her birthday. Yeah. Who had my brother on her birthday because they share a birthday, which is, that's just a hell of a day. But man, how was that feeling when you like finally made it home that day?
Well, I actually did go to the hospital.
Oh,
I turned down.
I said question first.
Yeah, I turned down the ambulance because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for that, like.
And this is America.
Welcome to America.
Right.
I'm a starving artist. Like.
Yeah.
So I did go to the hospital to get checked up. I was okay. They told me to rest. I had like some back problems.
Oh shit.
Like something like a bit out of line. I ended up having to go to a chiropractor for like a year after that, which everything's good now. But it was just kind of like almost comical to me at that point, just like everything leading up. But it quickly became not comical because my lease was going to be up before the end of that month, because that was just like the timing of the agreement. And all of my income was being made via the reliance of a car.
Oh, shit.
And even though I had insurance, it didn't cover for another person who's like having insurance, like, so this person who had hit and run didn't have insurance supposedly. And so I went over a month without a vehicle, so I couldn't get to the jobs that I was relying on, and I couldn't do like Lyft, which was one of like my main source of income at the time.
Which is super scary in LA. A lot of people don't know is when you are going through certain situations, people out here don't necessarily care much. I mean, I wouldn't say they care much, but they're not the most sympathetic, because the reality is too, a lot of random things happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it can be
completely not your fault.
Right. And then like folks who hire folks and things like that, is like, hey, they hear you, but they still need to get things done.
Yes.
And if they were going to be super sentimental to everyone who has a problem, then they're going to go out of business. Yeah. And that's just like the sad reality. So how did you deal with that?
I'm glad that I started this whole conversation with the premise of talking about community and friends, because I would not have made it through that without friends or even family, but I was prideful. I didn't actually go to my parents about this, because they're already like, you're this crazy vagabond traveling and then you decide to go to LA, you know what I mean? Like, but it was friends that I had made while being here, friends that I had connections with from before that were able to help me out. Like one friend lent me their car. I'm sitting there like, I'm about to be homeless. I don't have a way to make money. I can't find another place to live without a car. I can't make money without a car. It's like these catch-22. And I had like the ticking clock coming at me with finding things in time. Which
can easily just add to the pressure and the stress. It then can create anxiety that leads to depression.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to say this because I had a moment of, there's a lot of homelessness in LA, especially nowadays. And there was a really like big kind of humbling wake-up call I had. Like for my insurance purposes, I had to go to my chiropractor, not just for the health reasons, what have you. And I took a Lyft down, to go to my chiropractic appointment downtown. And I realized like I had overdraft, and like it was some mix up, and so I had actually negative money.
Yeah.
And after my appointment, I was stuck downtown with no way to get back home.
What area were you living in LA at the time?
I was in the Echo Park region, but like not within good walking distance.
Right, because even though that's like Echo Park is northeast LA and downtown is still considered like East LA, right? It's still quite a ways to get there, especially too, because it's like the goal line kind of gets you around that area, but not quite where you want. No, it actually doesn't run through Echo Park. It runs to Highland Park.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, actually, I'm getting. I mean, this is some time ago now. At this point, like 4 years, which is not that long. But I think I did just get my place. Yeah, so that place was in East Hollywood. That's why. So it was definitely too far. Because I'm like, I could have walked to my Echo Park location. But I had just gotten a place, so my friend lent me their car, and I found this place. I had just enough money to, like, it was the last of my savings to put the down payment and move in, right? But like, I was still in dire situation.
Yeah.
At any rate, I was downtown and couldn't get a lift home. Didn't even have a cent to get like a bus, nothing. And I'm walking around and realizing like this is how it's done. Like, one bad thing can happen to somebody that's not even their fault, and if you don't have like support or friends or someone willing to like reach out and help you, like, you could be screwed, you know what I mean? And so I spent the entire day. My appointment was in the morning, and I mean, it's not some sob story, but it was a humbling experience to be stuck in a city, wandering around, not even able to go to a cafe until like the sun goes down, when a friend can finally get off work and come grab you. People
don't actually recognize how until they're there, how close they are to being homeless. Because you know this about me, and a project that is going through the festival circuit right now is a project funded by AIDS Healthcare Foundation, called It Can Be Done, and it's about the homeless crisis in LA and what they are doing. And a lot of people don't recognize a lot of the folks who are homeless today are not the folks who are battling mental illness, drug addiction.
Yeah.
It are actually people who are homeless because of financial reasons. Like, there's a scary number of every time like the rent goes up in LA, how many people become homeless. Granted, since we're in the pandemic, these things
worse.
Right. And then so well, you do know, for a large portion, just about all of my first year in LA, I was homeless.
Yeah.
And it's something that I did not picture like happening, even though I came out here at such a whim. But then you learn quickly how close you are to being that.
Yeah.
And you also learn a few things about yourself too, like how one may have viewed homeless people before, and then where it's so people tend to not humanize the homeless.
Yeah.
Because if you humanize them, then you're gonna feel something when you see them. So we kind of like create this thing so we don't humanize them, but until we become in their like close to their situation.
Yeah.
And so it in so many ways too, it can be a fortunate thing to happen to somebody.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it changes you.
Yeah.
If you're able to pull yourself out of the hole. Now, granted, there are those who don't, and then it can quickly turn to something else, because I mean, this can be a whole other different thing when it comes to what people have to do once they're homeless to survive, when it comes to a thing like how sleep can be your biggest enemy.
Yeah, because where do you lay your head?
But when you do, you are you can be someone's prey.
Yes, exactly.
And this is what I've heard from all like men who are a certain size. So I would imagine when it comes to a woman being a certain, it's like it's a whole.
Yeah, definitely. And I recognize my luck too. Not only did I benefited from having good friends that could help me out. I was really lucky in finding the rare one little teeny place that was below $800.
In East Hollywood.
In East Hollywood.
That's
like that's just pure luck. Like, thank God. Because if I didn't find a place that was as cheap as I had found, it was like $650, which is cheap for LA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to cover it at all. And on top of that, like, I was such in dire straits, I wasn't guaranteed that I could do the next month. Like, how do you pull yourself out of a situation if you don't have like all of the tools that you used to have to provide for yourself are gone, So it was a scary time. Ended up working out.
So when the accident happened, you had to get a ride to the hospital. We probably jumped ahead a little bit. And when you did finally get clear from the hospital to go home, and the person who let you crash at their place a little bit, like, did you get any kind of extension, or that's when you had to quickly find your place that you moved to in East Hollywood?
So I was still in Echo Park at that point.
Echo Park, right? You're still at Echo Park, but yeah.
But I think I had like a week or so to move. You know, like it wasn't like on the first. Like the situation, it was like staggered in some weird way. But I was still in my place in Echo Park. I'd still paid for that, and the friend who actually drove me to the hospital was someone I had met while driving Lyft. As funny as that may sound, I'm driving around and made friends with this person.
Which can, because that's the thing about LA that I kind of say, I don't think we've covered this before in any of these, is your friends will come from unlikely places.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because people say they struggle to find friends in LA, but I believe that those are the people who quickly shut doors. It's like, if you're super open to where a friend may come from, you will find some friends and eventually build your tribe. Yeah. So you found this friend through driving Lyft. How was that?
He was also an artist.
Oh, nice.
And so we bonded over being artists and like-minded. We're still friends.
Ah, beautiful. Wait, have I met them before?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. We don't hang out much anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, we still keep in touch. So
the friend who drove you to the hospital, and then like I'm imagining that friend stayed with you to the hospital, and then eventually drove you home, and you found the place in East once in Echo Park, the place you found afterwards, the East Hollywood place. It was through another friend.
Yeah, he was going out of town for work and was like, borrow my car. And this is someone I barely knew at the time. And like, I can't even say that we're still friends. Like, it was just a momentary, like, this good person, you know, helped me out, like trusted me with their vehicle and let me use it to search for a place to live. And I said, I was really lucky to find this place. I had popped into some like weird share house situations, which I would have done if push came to shove. But I was really lucky to find this it was a teeny room, little thing that was affordable for me. Yeah.
So we have just stumbled upon something I've been meaning to talk to someone about that we've actually covered in one of these before, but something happened and that portion was like lost. Hollywood people, these things happen, right? But it was a thing when it came to mentorship and finding people who want to help you, and the difference between males and females, right? And then where they brought up a very great point that finding mentorship and people who want to help you when you're a female, you will find like more people are willing to help you than males. However, the thing that comes along with that is a high number of the males who want to help you also have other intentions in mind.
Yes.
And it can create like a defense mechanism that can eventually hurt you. Now, with males, it's not the same case, where it's a lot less of that going on. A lot of times the people who want to help you actually want to help you, but it is a lot less, and it is pretty gender specific. It's very rare that a male is going to have a female mentor. And for a lot of folks who don't know, a lot of people who tend to be very successful have multiple mentorship. Like, there's this thing out there that people think, oh, if I have this one mentor, I'm good. It's like, no. You should have way more.
A tribe,
Exactly. A tribe of mentors.
Community.
And so my question to you is, how do you learn to navigate through that? Because it can be quite difficult for a female when it's like finding males who want to help, who don't have a hidden agenda.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of good people out there. I'll start off by saying that.
Yes.
And it's rough. You run into similar circumstances as a traveler living out of your backpack or whatever, as I had before. Oh, and I wanted to mention before as well, like I took some of those skills, and so making friends, I've had practice, doing such, which again, it was fortunate for. But yeah, there is definitely 100% that situation. Like the friend that lent me his car, he was respectful, like good human, but I'm not gonna lie, he probably had hopes that we could be a couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm pretty good at judging character. And if I had felt like there was this like definite pressure of like tit for tat, like, oh, I helped you out by doing this, so now I need this back, I wouldn't have engaged with that person. But I have previous experience with running into that sort of situation before, and that is definitely prevalent in this city.
Yeah.
For sure. I've got good girlfriends who have been victimized by males trying to be like, oh, I'm here to help you and support you in your art or mentor you, and they really just want sex, or they want to use her for that reason or another. And I stay away from that. It's hard. It's not always easy to gauge that, and I try to be open, and like try to communicate, like we're friends, I don't try to lead people on. I'm not like, like, hey, will you help me?
Right.
But at the same time,
which is still in another way too, if someone is a flirtatious type and someone dresses in a way that's not the most conservative way, it doesn't mean that person wants to sleep with you.
Yeah.
And which,
like I say that, and I don't want to victimize women who do that,
Right. Which is another thing too, because I am one of the people who would never knock someone using sex as a way to get ahead. Like I don't agree with shaming people to doing that. And I feel that people do. I have certain feelings about them because I'm like, hey, it's your body, it's your choice. You do whatever the hell you want to. However, when someone doesn't want to do that, then
exactly
right. And then there's another thing too when I say I think people sometimes get lines crossed between the guy, the person. I don't want to say God because there are women who actually do the same thing and it gets overlooked. And I feel bad for women women and men who've been victimized by predators, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Who are women who will do that, right? Mm-hmm. But I say that there's a huge difference between the person who is expecting something in return for their help and the person who helps, who may be hoping or who would do something if the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
But if you clearly establish a boundary, who would still help because they genuinely do see potential in you or want to help.
Care.
Right. But that's it. That's a big difference. And I think that oftentimes the person who would gets put in the same category as the predators. And I'm like, no, they're actually different. And that doesn't get talked about enough because the fact of the matter is, I mean, we as human beings, if you're a hardcore Christian, we as human beings, we've been around for 3,000 years. Anyways.
We've been around the sun a few times.
Exactly, right? We know we've been longer than that. But let's just say we've been around 3,000 years. Us actually working together when we talk about the female and male is only 30 years, if that. We actually haven't had much
modern society.
Right, and it's in modern society. We haven't been working together that long. I mean, Vikings and certain African cultures differently, right? But in modern society, not that long at all. And so in so many ways, we don't know how to work together how to separate certain feelings and things of that sort, right?
Yeah.
And then so when we think about the person who would, but who would still help you if you, when boundaries are established, it's something that, how can I say, I've seen people close doors who didn't need to close that door.
Yeah.
Which is going to be an unfortunate thing.
Yes.
But then I was still...
Out of fear of being perceived in a particular way, or even, where I've seen that as well, where it's like the pride of someone like not accepting help because they like, oh, I don't want to be looking like I'm using this person, or I don't know, maybe I'm not.
No. You're actually touched on something very great, because there are those people who would not receive, who are hesitant to receive help, or who won't receive the help because you're right, because they won't they'll only be received a certain way, because other people, oftentimes from the same tribe, would look at that person in a certain way,
and be like, like, are you just using people around you? Like, I guess the reason why I bring that up is because that was a fear of mine, where like I was like desperately needing help, but for the most part, I actually kept my situation hidden from most of my like people around me, because like, one, I didn't want to appear like needy, and I didn't want to appear as a failure,
Right.
Yeah. So like actually learning to like kind of check my pride and being like, okay, like, thank you, I'll accept your help. Because it wasn't like, oh, here, borrow my car. That's not how it went down. It was like someone was like, hey, I could lend you my car. And I'm like, no. Trying to turn it down due to my own pride of like, I could do it on my own, Yeah.
And for those who are listening, please understand that a lot of people you meet in LA, yes, they perceive themselves to be a certain way, but those motherfuckers are broke.
It's true. Probably. Not always, but...
Not always. But the majority of them are broke. Hell, I was eating by the pool in my apartment complex yesterday, and there was two young ladies talking to a gentleman, and they were saying certain things, and he was talking about how, he drives his... I'm not gonna say what kind of car, but a fancy car to drive people around. And they were super impressed by that and stuff. And they were like, oh man, I wish I had a job like that and all this and that. And I was like, in my head, I was thinking to myself, you'll be on par with somebody who works the register at McDonald's. Not to knock people at McDonald's, but certain things
as an example.
Right. Certain things seem like they make X amount of cash and things of that sort, but that's not the case. And then you quickly learn that is actually not that important anyway, though. Like how much value we put into the dollar. I think what's beautiful about today, especially what's been going on lately, is that we're learning that the dollar doesn't mean much at all. At all. And so versus to other things, or which you've touched on multiple times and has been a common thread through these, is a tribe. Like me moving out here with only $200 to my name.
Yeah.
But I had a tribe.
Yeah.
Was way more valuable than me moving
valuable.
out here with $50,000.
Yeah.
In the bank. Like, in no tribe. Like I will gladly take $200 in a tribe over $50,000 and no tribe.
Wow, yeah. There's truth to that for sure, at least in my opinions of what makes a more full life. But yeah.
Yes. So so please continue on.
Yeah. Talking about the tribe and appreciating the people around you, the community. Another aspect of LA that you see a lot are the types who are actually here to try to swindle and mooch and, weasel their way into certain status rings and what have you. And at least from my perspective, call me naive, maybe, whatever, because, the swindlers do make it. They do.
Unfortunately. Perception is so many things,
Yeah, but that's 100% not the only way to make it. kind of like fast forward, like I ended up finding that I was interested in art directing. It was ever changing. It's a moving thing. It was something I appreciate. I get to put my creative touch onto it or into it. And while like kind of breaking into that, I found it was just through genuine connections and friendships. And that like that tribe thing of like meeting like-minded people who are here to make art, you know, and being able to like lift each other up in that capacity. That to me seems far more valuable than and more effective than trying to like swindle your way in some capacity by schmoozing or whatever. But I don't know. That's my opinion.
I completely agree, because I think about like, I mean, for those who don't know, I personally know a part of your tribe, and that's how you and I had crossed paths at a mutual friend birthday, Troy Eric Dickerson, aka Teddy, and then you and I would bump into each other several times at other parties, you know, like at the legendary Patrick Lawler. Love you, Patrick. You're a beautiful man. So beautiful. Whoop, whoop. It's Steve, you know, and then the legendary Glitter Factory House, and then, you know, with Tyler and Stephanie. And
RJ.
And
RJ.
And RJ. Right, my bad. You know the crazy thing, a real quick story about RJ and I.
I love RJ.
So RJ and I went to the same college. However, that's not where RJ and I met.
Cool.
We met on a Union feature film. And I was DITing it. It was one of the first Union features that I did. This is June 2016. And, you know, I was DITing, and sometimes you need cables, and sometimes I talk to the people in the G&E department, and I talked to RJ. I was like, hey, you know, where can I get power at? And he pointed me to the way, and he was super helpful and stuff, right? And then at lunch, and he was like, Skylar, where are you eating at? And I was like, I'm just over here eating. He's like, no, come join us. I was like, no, I'm going to just be under this tree. He's like, no, Skylar, come chill. And then I was like, okay. And then we kicked in. RJ, I think he was only day playing for someone only for just a couple of days. So he only did a couple of days on the feature, and I did the whole thing, right? And then at the Glitter Factory party, the first one that I went to, bam, RJ pops up. He's like, oh, look. And then he sees me, I see him. He's like, oh shit, Skylar, like, what are you doing here? And then like we find that a good number of friends who are close personal friends of ours that we share. And for some reason, we never cross paths. But it goes back to that thing of tribe, and then you feel more of a connection. But on top of that, our reputation is super important. Because I've been in dinners where somebody who had asked about us, an individual, and somebody was like, nah. And then that person's done. Or I've been in situations vice versa, when somebody's like, oh, I'm thinking about hiring this person. How is this person? Oh no, they're great. And it's like, and seeing how that person's career went after that simple after that simple confirmation that they're a good person to work with or hang out with. Yeah. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah. That reminds me too of the idea of what LA is. Even though I came here based on intuition, I actually did not think I was going to like it.
Same here.
Like straight up, I was like, all right, for whatever reason, I like keep thinking about moving to LA. And I told myself, a year, just give yourself 1 year. And if you don't like it by the end of the year, if things aren't whatever, like move on. And my thought at the time was like, I would go to New Zealand and do like tours, you know, leading people on rock climbing tours or something, you know, which is something I used to do. And so I moved here with that perception of LA being this like pretentious, like cutthroat place where everyone's trying to like claw their way to the top. And, you know, maybe that exists here. Yes. I'm sure, like, there's a portion of it, yes. But it wasn't what I personally run into. And it's like exactly what you're talking about. Like you meet the people like RJ who see you like working wherever you're working and like, hey, come hang out, you know, and you find this matter of trust. And that, I don't know, like, and I find it beautiful. And it's creatives, artists doing what they want to do and then lifting each other up. and like, oh, we need this person for this project, and I know this person who's doing that, so like hook this person up. You know, like that's a good way to get work and build a network from a place of genuinity, you know, and not
where the crabs in the buckets kind of thing, you know, where how can I say? Because you're absolutely right. It's me myself. While I was in college, someone asked me, "It's like, yeah, so you're gonna eventually move to LA, you know, to pursue your film career?" And I was like, "No." I was like, in so many ways, I was like, skip LA, because it's like the superficialness and all this other kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I came here. I was still in college, and I came just off a whim, just to visit some friends. I knew I was out here, and then I saw it. Then I understood it, and it was actually someone who helped a lot with my decision to move to LA was Patrick Lawler. And at the time,
I love him. He's such a great human.
He is. He's such a beautiful man. And at the time, him and I weren't friends. He was friends of mine. So he's an associate. And I asked him about our good friend Rachel Dusa, because he had just moved out here, and he was like, you know, he talked about her grind and stuff. And I was like, all right, if you move out here, like if one's trying to get in out here, what should one do? And he said, say yes to everything. Every job that comes around, say yes. Yeah. Go for it. And then I was like, okay. And honestly, that little piece of advice,
that's golden.
Right. Has gotten me to where I am right now, and has gotten me to actually us being friends. Yeah. And then, you know, me actually building a strong friendship with Patrick and so many others, with just going for it and then taking that risk and just saying yes, because when you actually weigh things out, you realize you don't have much to lose. And then on top of that, when we think about the superficial part of LA, you quickly realize when you come out here that you don't have to contribute to that part if you don't want to. And the people who complain about that actually want to be a part of it, and they are not happy that they are not at a higher status in that world.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different thing.
Yeah, no, that's I don't think we've ever actually talked about this, but it's the same thing I've observed as well. Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like it's the cliche is like how you live and what you do attracts, you know, what you're around.
That cliche, birds of a feather flock together. And then you learn too that I don't know how it is for you, but the people who I've heard say that they hate LA, the folks who live out here, the people who, when they talk about their dating situation, say they can't find a good partner, and people who say they can't find friends. Those people, those three types of people I've mentioned are, well, first off, they're all often the same person, but they're never people I actually want to hang out with at all, because those are the people who expect things to come to them.
Yeah, they self-victimize. They don't put in the effort and work. You, like a bit ago, you were talking about saying yes to everything, and I like that you mentioned that, because that's ultimately what got me out of my hole. Is like I sucked up pride, and I was not too good for any job, right? I mean, while keeping to morals.
Yeah.
And whatever your own personal morals are, like follow it, you know. But for me personally, I have like what I will and won't do. But when it came to like grunt work, you know, being a PA forever, or I actually worked a long time doing house painting. Like wasn't like artistic. I'm just whitewashing walls.
Yeah.
But it was hard physical labor. It was also weird for a white young woman to be doing that sort of work. But I did it because it was money. It needed to be done. And it actually led to opportunities where people see like, oh, you're willing to put forth hard work, like even if it's not glamorous. So they recognize that, like the right people sometimes will see that and invite you to do other things. And that's what I've experienced.
You're absolutely correct, because the reality is this: there are so many motherfucking talented people in LA.
Yes.
how do you see a hardworking person?
Yeah.
Right. And then so you're always on the prowl looking for hardworking, like-minded people, like people you can work hard with, who's going to keep a good attitude the whole way through the job. And oftentimes you don't see that unless you're in a certain environment, and it may not be that environment you may need them for. However, you learn the key qualities you need to know. Right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to know the job fully. They just have to be a hardworking, dope person.
Yeah. Like, don't be a prima donna.
Right.
You know, be easy to work with and show up. Like, freaking show up.
Which, it sounds like a simple thing. It's such a huge stinks, because the reality is a lot of people don't fucking show up.
No.
Especially like when you need them to. And which is, shit happens. People, it's like, that's okay.
I mean, I was supposed to record this forever ago.
This is how many times?
Showing up.
The fourth time, right?
And I really try to live by not doing that, but sometimes life happens.
I live in a way, though, especially when doing these, it's I have this thing especially when like there's no money involved or anything like that, is when you ask people to do certain things, you have to have the mindset that it's okay, because you don't want to hate the people. You don't want to hate your friends. And when you're asking them to do things when there's no money on the line and shit comes up and people have to make a living for themselves, you have to navigate in a certain kind of way. And so, like, take for example, even if you would have did a last minute cancellation today,
I would not have. There was too many times I did that.
But I had a long list of other things I could do.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. It was so, like, because I never want to get to a point where I dislike you, Sarah, because you are a person I genuinely like as a person, who I appreciate. And then there's so much I want to know more about you. Like, every time we've had a conversation, in the back of my mind, I thought to myself, or leaving that conversation, I said to myself, I want to know more about this person, And then every time we've talked, we've learned so much more about each other. Now, granted, it's not like we see each other every week. I'll talk to each other every month, because it's LA and it's hard to keep track of things, right?
Yeah. Get busy, all the jazz. Yeah.
Exactly. But I just never want to get to a point where I feel that way about you or anyone. And so I look at people a certain kind of way who get mad at folks who flake on them. I'm like, okay, so this person flaked on you. So then what you do? That's my follow-up question to them. And oftentimes they thought I didn't do nothing because it didn't happen. I'm like, so you mean to tell me, out of all the things you had to do, that's the only thing you could possibly muster up that day? Then you're living your life incorrectly.
Yeah. It's like for other people, more or less.
You actually put it better than I did. You worded it much better, because yes, they're living for other people. And if you're living for other people, then you are wasting your motherfucking time.
We only got this one.
Right. And time is our most valuable currency. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely refuse to let anyone waste my time. And the only way someone can waste my time if I let them. So let me ask you this question, which is a new question I've been asking people during these.
Cool.
Do you love LA?
Man, I do. I mean, like, I stayed here despite thinking I was going to hate it. Mm-hmm. And it is because of that reason I mentioned before, of there being just a lot of people out here who I feel like are like-minded, in that they want to create.
Right. They
want to make art. And it's a collaborative city. Like, a lot of the art, like film, like, it's collaborative. You can't just do it alone. You need at least one other person. I mean, I guess technically you can do it, but
even though this is a 2-camera shoot with 3 monitors, time code sync, there's a shotgun mic above you. You are wearing a lavalier mic. I'm wearing a lavalier mic, and it's just me. However, though, with these, a lot of people don't know, is a lot of the editing responsibilities were passed by a lovely woman by the name of Kelsey Winfrey, who was super talented, and she is amazing. And Kelsey, I love you dearly, but you're absolutely correct. Yeah. With these, it's like, even when people are seeing you're doing one-man band stuff, it still takes a community of people to help out to make it see the light. And on top of that, the support. Like, people don't actually recognize you are not doing it by yourself when you get emotional support. And let me tell you something, Sarah. Emotional support has been one of the biggest things I value when creating content, because I oftentimes forget why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, especially with art. I mean, I think all artists struggle with that, like, what's it called? Imposter syndrome, you know? Like, what am I doing? Is this good? Does anyone want this, you know?
I'm actually unfamiliar with imposter syndrome.
Oh, it's where you feel like you're being an imposter in your art.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. More or less, I think that's what it means. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, in so many ways it's self-explanatory, right? But I've never heard that term before.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something where you feel like you're not worthy.
Yeah.
You know, like, what am I doing? You're like, honestly, when I'm directing narratives, it's less these days, but like when I wake up in the morning, I don't think I'm worthy. I'm like, what am I doing? And like, I have very little confidence. And as it comes closer and closer to seeing that slit go up in front of the lens, it like right before they clap it, right? That's when I'm like, the first time I hear that, that's when I'm fully in the zone.
Cool.
But not up into that. I don't know if you've seen this before, but have you ever seen the documentary Tyson? I highly recommend it. But at least I send it to you later. There's a section in there where he talks about where Mike Tyson talks about what's in his mind state as he's in the locker room and going to the ring. And it's a very similar thing. Is where he has absolutely no confidence, and he's like, this guy's gonna tear him apart.
Whoa.
And right before he hears the bell ring, he's like,
there,
I'm gonna tear him apart. And then he talks about, like, and afterwards he knocks the guys out. And he's like, bam, Mike Tyson, greatest heavyweight to ever lived. But how that is nowhere near in his mind when he's just like in that locker room before he goes. He's so terrified and scared. But I think that's also a beautiful, true thing that lets you know how much you care.
Yep.
Reminds you that you're alive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because when you care about something, that's when you have often the most doubts about it, or the worries, you know, concerns. Like, in worrying and being concerned about it is the act of caring about it.
Exactly, because it's like, and that's also how you know how you don't care about something. If you don't care about the outcome of it, of what you're working on, then you should go out and find something else as fulfillment. Because if you're not getting it out of what you are working on, then that is going to be the thing that eventually kills you. Even though, there's another thing I say out there, is the thing that you often love is the thing that also does slowly kill you too.
True. Yeah.
It's just,
in a more optimistic point, though, we mentioned about showing up, you know?
Yes. Oh, you let me go. I'm going to get dark on you. I'm going to get real dark. This is like a whole uplifting thing. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, that thing you love, is killing you too.
It's
so, you know,
going to destroy you
what
a
it is.
little bit. If it's not keeping you up at night, then I'm just kidding. No.
Yes. Oh, man.
But yeah, that's like we've said, showing up earlier, and it's true. Like, Mike Tyson showed up despite him having doubts about himself, and I think the same goes with art, or any endeavor. Just show up.
True. So let us know what you're doing today.
Well, coronavirus happened.
Right, that's very true. That kind of slows some things down and make people like retool. So, how are you navigating through this pandemic that we're currently in?
I'm doing it. I've actually been appreciating it in the capacity of being able to work on personal projects without the worry of it being a job. You know, I could put time in my own paintings or art without being concerned about it being good for whoever I'm working with or for, you know,
Yeah.
like I can work on my own personal things. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the pandemic. But I have a business that I've got 2 partners with, and it's called Time Machine. And we were building an immersive, interactive art experience. And we had a huge building already down, like we're leasing it, you know. It was an old grocery store that we were going to convert. And we were literally at the point of about to start construction. You know, we'd put over years into this project, and we've gotten investors, and we had the blueprints all done. We're ready to start building. I've been doing the art directing for it, and the COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's life, I guess. And,
Sure.
But it did not kill the project. We, you know, I ended up studying anthropology back when I went to college. And it's not art, you know, whatever, but I enjoyed it.
But it helps with art. It helps you understand others who are different from yourself.
Yeah, that too. Also, it just kind of helped me learn a bit about life. And there's a common misconception of like survival of the fittest, right? But it's actually survival of the most adaptable. And this year has been like something that I think we've all, as a collective humanity, of having to look at, and because we've had to adapt everything, right? Learning to be flexible, change our business models, change, you know, our day-to-day activities. And so that's what we're currently doing. We're transitioning to the same concept, but a more app-based thing, where we want the app to also be integrated with real life art, both performances and visual art and immersive art. But that's still in the works because of the whole shift of everything.
Right.
We've had to put our launching timetable back. So I've been working on that, and then like personal paintings. I've done some murals. I enjoy doing murals, and so I've been able to get hired by people to come in, especially businesses, now that they can't have people come into their restaurant or what have you, and they can do a big mural. I did a collaboration with another artist recently. Yeah, so I've been still working on my stuff.
That's beautiful. And, you know, adapting during these times and everything. I do want to challenge you a little bit when you said the survival of the fittest and survival of the most who are the most adaptable, right? I would say that those are actually two of the same thing. And when we say the fittest,
Yes.
I think that the common misconception of the fittest is a physical thing, and that's not it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of the same thing when we think about we're going to like a primal thing where we're talking about women were attracted to the men who are the biggest and strongest for security, and men were attracted to women with hips because of the whole bearing children and things of that sort, right? And then we fast forward today, people think that we are grown at it, and I'll say no, it's not. With the exception, it's like it's people who actually follow like their nature, but who sometimes get shamed for it. Like, take for example, when people try to shame women who want a significant other who is financially stable or has certain finances, it's like that's still security, and that's the advancement of it. And then when we say the survival of the fittest, right, where it's just like, okay, even 3,000 years ago, when we say the fittest, it was you adapted to strength because of the wild and things and hunting and things of that sort, right? And then so what is that today? It's not necessarily like your physical strength. It's just like it's how your mind is, right? And so it's still survival of the fittest.
So, some of us are sapiosexual, where they're attracted to intellect. But I'm glad you brought this up, because in the realm of like biology, the word fitness, from a scientific perspective, actually does not just mean physical strength.
Right.
I said that because the colloquial or like the common use of the term is about that, like fitness, like whether you're running or lifting weights, whatever. But it is the trait within a species that is their best foot forward in survival, right?
Yes.
So like the fitness of a cheetah is its speed, and the fitness of like a turtle is its protective shell. You know, it's the trait that is like the most prominent feature for their survival is their fitness.
Right, because even in
right.
Right, you're right. And then it's glad that we are talking about this so people can have a clear understanding of the distinction between the two. Because even in say folks who hit the gym a lot, they say physical fitness.
Yes, because it's physical fitness versus other forms of fitness.
And it seems like they even do that without actually like deciphering it much, right? But that's often what they mean, right? And it's a weird thing too, even when we talk about those who are the folks who consistently hit the gym or do weight training, and it's really good for them, right? But actually, like they are quick to say physical fitness. It's those who don't, who have a misconception of it. In some of these ways too, it's like kind of like their excuse to not doing so. Like I know I'm down there about to go on a tangent. So let me ask you. If you can give if you can give advice to anyone who has just moved to LA and they're currently experiencing their first year, what would you say to them?
Yeah, a good question. It'd probably be similar advice I would give anyone about life in general, actually, and that be you. Pursue what you want to do. Don't bend for other people's wills or try to live a life that you feel like you need to live to get a thing you want, you know? Just be genuine with your, what you know.
Right.
Inside or whatever. And if you don't know what that is, then spend some time working it out. And then I guess my next bit of advice would be what we talked about before, to show up. Be the person that's there so that you can actually get the position that you're here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very true. I mean, when you're being you, there's no one else who's quite like you. And so take the time to know who you are and to be yourself. And there's a lot of value to go into being the person who's available when that phone call rings.
Yep. I mean, the cliches are sometimes annoying and they get brushed off because they're said so often, but sometimes it takes some life trial and error to realize that there's something to those cliches.
As well said and perfect. Thank you very much. This has been great. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
You did amazing.
Aw.
Thank you so much. Hey, how you feeling?
Done. Cool. Good.
Woo-hoo.